Welcome to Rise and Shine with Alissa. I am your hostess, the consultress, bringing you amazing, innovative conversations from the front lines of entrepreneurship, creativity, and new paradigm thinking. I have the pleasure in my business and in my life to talk with really interesting people who are creating new value in this world. And I am blessed to know and to be networked with the lady who has been in my life for over a decade. We met once upon a time trying to better ourselves and better our businesses when our businesses were just itty bitty. So welcome to Rise and Shine, Dr. Nadia Brown. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. So excited to be here.
Yeah. Cheers. I'm like,
Cheers.
we have to find more reasons, more ways to come and hang out. And, we do have the every so often, like, get back in touch, get back. But you know what? This year, it felt really different. Things in the world have changed. Things in our businesses have changed. Now, when I met you, you were all about the sales and training people how to do it right,
No,
women particularly. And
not
now,
the sales, Alissa.
no,
It was all about leadership.
is it about sales now?
Yes.
Oh, damn it. All right, everybody, rewind, forget it. I'm human. So it was not about sales, it was about leadership.
Not yet.
Listen, she's gonna school me. This is why she's got doctor in front of her name, okay? So can you tell us what your entrepreneur journey is so that I don't flub it up?
It's all good. It's all good. They're both very, very different. So as Alyssa mentioned, just me now it incorporates sales. But when Alyssa and I first met many, many moons ago, when you first said over a decade, I was like, nah. Oh, yeah, she's right. Never mind. Quiet, Nadia. It was all about leadership, helping women in leadership roles, really owning their leadership and authenticity as a leader. I worked with a lot of women in corporate in those roles that were in fields that were predominantly male. That's where I started my corporate career before I left. Engineering, IT, financial services, lots of men. And throughout the journey, we incorporated sales. And it's funny because as I started to really own that, I realized there are a lot of parallels between sales and leadership as it relates to women. Because honestly, I was a little resistant to owning sales. Like I didn't like sales, hence the reason why I needed to learn how to do sales. And I remember Angela, because that's how she was the catalyst that helped us meet one of our former coaches. And I remember her saying to me, she was just like, Nadia, you have to figure this out. Like you got it. This whole sales thing is the big hiccup. And I took that to heart. And once I learned it, I had people in my circle who watched that journey and they were just like, you can't sit on this. Cause I was like, okay, I'm good. I know how to do it. And they were like, no, we've learned so much from you throughout your own learning journey that you have to share this. And then I sat on it for another year. I kid you not, because Nadia can, sometimes I take my time.
We like to marinate. Listen.
Yeah, I let it marinate a long time. It was good.
Super tender and juicy when it's done.
Super tender. And I was just like, oh, what does that look like? Because I also did not want to build a business based on things that I had seen. Like I wanted something a little bit different. And so it took me another year. And then I finally was like, I think I got it. And so we shifted the focus, changed the name to encompass both sales and leadership. A bigger, probably, well, I don't know, these days it's about half and half. Because I still do some team training. I talk a lot about sales culture, which definitely ties into leadership. But then I also work with business owners around sales. Like a lot of times it's just like, Nadia, I get that whole leadership thing, but right now it's just me in this business and I need to figure out how to generate revenue. And I'm like, girl, come on, let's do it. So
yeah, you know what,
it's a bit of both.
And to me, I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will, the shatter the glass ceiling was like all about breaking through. And to me, like for me in business, that, to be honest, was sales, was like my upper limit, much like you when we met, was sales. It was about enrolling people into a vision. And now 10 years later, but now I know it's allowing people to invest in themselves through me because I've learned the hard way how to turn sales from like that icky, weird thing that, used car salesmen or snake oil salesmen
Oh
do
my gosh. Yes.
into, allowing people to make a powerful decision, allowing people to make a powerful decision to change their life. And I realized that I was doing it. The more I paid for coaching, training, whatever, the more I paid
Mm-hmm.
attention. And
Yes.
so when I was lowballing my pricing, I was not having the results for the clients that I wanted them to have. And therefore it created a really big shadow side effect of like me not believing that I was good enough to create those kind of results. But
Yeah.
once you get both sides of those limitations and you kind of break through, you can see it for what it really is. So, like, tell
Mhm.
me more about this transition, because here I am, like, this lady knows her stuff about sales. And, like, that's the impression I now have of you. So, forgive me for thinking it always was that way. But isn't that the way evolution goes? It's
It
scary and
is.
weird, then it's like detestable and like, shoot it down. And then all of a sudden, obviously, it's always been that way, right? The transformation of an idea. So, how did you come through to this sales epiphany for yourself? How did
Oh my
that
gosh.
roll?
Similar to your journey, like you said, it was definitely my upper limit. I just didn't like it. And a lot of the ways I had been taught to sell did not feel good. And I know that, it's like, Nadia, get over yourself. But when you're inviting people to work with you, especially as a coach or someone you work really closely with people, it's like, I need us to start off on a good foot and not you feel bad or like I bullied you into working with me. And you see some of these tactics even today, and you're like, seriously, like, come on, people. Um, and so throughout that journey,
Sorry,
one thing
wait. Is this for a bad frame? Are you lost and lonely, or are you just an idiot? Pick one. Are you desperate, or are you kind of smart? Pick one. Like, that's what, like, we've been trained that sales is. It's like, choose the lesser of two evils, and obviously at the end you're gonna buy whatever it is.
right? And I was like,
Proceed.
what if I trusted the person in front of me because they've made an investment of their time, whether they buy or not, to at least have this conversation? But what if I trusted that they know how they make decisions? And it's funny because you know how life gives you exactly what it is that you need. My husband and I are we're similar in a lot of ways, but we're also very different in a lot of ways. And one of those ways is how we buy for the most part. My husband is an engineer to his core. I know
Mhm.
that that's a learned thing, but I think he was born that way. And so
Uh-huh.
he's definitely that thinker and just, I call it spreadsheets. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good spreadsheet, but there are just times like, babe, come on, let's pull the trigger. Whereas I typically am not, or I typically have done my research and my spreadsheets prior to the conversation. So I'm already leaning a certain way. And so in that, I have real life examples, if you will, of I can trust that this person, if they say to me, I need to sleep on it, that they're telling me the truth. Whereas some sales training, I did a whole video on this, Alissa. It was so funny because it was just really irking my, it was pissing me off. It was that we talk a lot, and I don't even have to start quoting statistics. We all know that the majority of people don't like or trust salespeople. Like
Right.
you see a salesperson and you're just like, because you're coming over here with the nonsense. And there's a reason why, like a lot of salespeople have earned that feeling. But what I found fascinating was that a lot of the sales training you get also teaches salespeople not to trust the very people they say they want to work with.
Huh.
Because if you think about it, you've been taught that you have to overcome objections. And a lot of those ways, it goes right back to what you were saying, right? You're either just not that smart, or you're an idiot, right? Like it's just
Right.
one. And it's just like, really? Or people have said it like, if a person says to you, you know what, listen, I would really love to work with you, but that, I can't afford it, or however they phrase it, that money objection. And we've been taught that that's just an excuse. That's just the story. And your job as a salesperson is to push that aside and say, Nadia, girl, you don't know what you're talking about. You got money somewhere. Let's go figure it out. Now, there are instances where people are open and you can't figure it out, but there are also instances where people genuinely mean it. Alissa, girl, I don't
Yeah.
have it, right?
Right.
I adore you. And so I was like, but why is that? So they don't trust us as salespeople. We don't trust them as prospects. This is a whole hot mess of a relationship that we are
Based on
trying to have.
lies.
And so anyway, I wanted something different, and I wanted people to be able to have a different experience. And so integrity and trust are huge in how we flow over here, because if you don't ever have a sales experience that isn't weird and creepy, then come have a sales conversation with me. And so you can just see that it doesn't have to be this way. We can laugh, we can cry, we can, connect. I can share ideas, and you can go live your life and do your business and do your thing. And we may never work together, but I would hope that I've had the opportunity to make an impact during that brief interaction. And I think that has just been that one thing that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. And I have many, many more examples, but I know we're going to talk about some other things, but that was just kind of like the journey. And people saw me be able to build these connections and have conversations, close sales, and still make it fun and feel good, all wrapped into one. It didn't have to be one or the other. It could be both.
Yeah, and it's like a dance, it's an art form. And, to your point, unlearning some of the bad habits and the bad assumptions that are underneath all of that, it requires us to lean into the belief and the truism that sales can be, and most often is, service.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sales conversation, if there is clearly not a match of product versus need, you need to be willing to say, nope, this is not a good fit. You need to be open to the fact that this is a discovery, and that at the end of it, you'll both walk away having connected and served and understood one another, but that the necessary outcome of these calls is not to close a sale at all costs, because that's the thing that's creating the stigma in the marketplace. Is at the at all costs part. Like I had somebody come to me that was referred and ready to buy, and after our first conversation was asking, how do I pay you? And I was like, hold your damn horses, because we vibe. This clearly energetically is a match. Now let's go back and do the logistical discovery around the mindset piece, and then the financial piece, and then we'll have a proper discovery call. And if it still makes sense after that, I will tell you how to invest through me. But knowing that that was the way that I was caring for the systems that I created in order to qualify and really know that I'm going to be serving someone at a high level that's ready to be served. Because again, if you have that mismatch of someone who's not ready to be served and someone who thinks they are, but they're not being honest with themselves, it's our job as service providers and as salespeople to have that join us at the table for those conversations.
100%. And it's so funny. Anytime, and I've said it multiple times throughout my career now, I'm like, this isn't the best fit for you. And people are shocked. And this is the weird part, because there are those that train people to do that. You call it a takeaway. So if you feel like you're having this conversation, it's like, I'm going to take this away, because, human nature sometimes is for people to then really lean into it. But
ask me about my parenting. Yes, it works.
And then, but I'm serious. I'm being genuine. I'm like, I don't think this is a good fit. And they're like, and I'm like, here, let me tell you why. You said this. Here's what I know. Unless I'm misunderstanding, feel free to correct me. This is why I'm saying that I don't think this is the next best step for you, or that this is a good investment for you. Ultimately, you're an adult. Unless, because here's a caveat, and I have to throw this in here. I still do sales on behalf of others. So there are those times when I'm that conduit, if you will, but I'm not the one you ultimately get to work with. And so there are those times when it's just like, okay, here's what I know, and here's what you're sharing, and it may or may not turn out the way you want to. However, you're a grown up and you can do what you choose. Whereas, obviously within my business, I can turn people away and just be like, here, no. So I think that it's important, but I find that people really appreciate it. I found people in conversations that have said things like, thanks for listening. Thanks for allowing me to talk this out. and again, whether they said yay or nay, I've had both where people are like, yes, thank you for letting me talk this out. I'm ready to rock and roll. And others have been like, you know what? Now that I've had time to process, I don't think this is the right next step for me. And I'm like, okay, yay, go. My philosophy is my job is to get people to a solid yes or no, period. And not be married to the outcome. Don't leave them in limbo. Because I'm like, sitting on the fence hurts. Pick one, yes or no.
Oh, that image sitting on a fence hurts.
It
You're
hurts.
so right. That indecision is the place where people live in the suffering.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when I was like deciding, weighing and measuring about big decisions, career decisions, parenting decisions, I'll talk about the homeschooling decision because it was like way out of left field. And I was like, oh, I think I got to do something. But like the struggle and like all the suffering was in the should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I. Once I made a decision, because I pretty much knew what I was going to know by that point and said, all right, well, I'm going to go for it. Or, you know what, I'm not going to go for it. The suffering ended. At the point of decision, the suffering ends.
Same.
Whether it's yes or no, in or out, doesn't matter. But that is what freedom really is make the freedom to make the choice and not live in limbo.
Yes.
It's painful.
That's so good. I agree. I was the same way with homeschool. So we as you know, we adopted our niece, and we are now 5 years into this journey. 5 years since she's lived with us, 2 years since the adoption was final. And talk about a parenting journey. Hats off to all parents. I thought I knew what parenting was like until I became a parent for reals. And so we've been going back and forth, similar, like homeschool, yes, no, whatever. And we have opted to leave her in school because, we weighed the pros and cons. One, primarily she's an only child and she's an extroverted only child.
Oh,
and I work from home and I'm like, girl, you and I would not like each other if we tried this homeschooling in this season. Now we're definitely open to it in future seasons, as she grows and matures and as our life evolves. But like you said, the angst and the anxiety was in the decision and me going back and forth, and then making myself right or wrong about a decision, right? And it was like, no, you need to make a decision based on what makes the most sense for you and the child and the season that you all are in. She's 8. She's an extroverted 8-year-old. There are certain things that she needs that is going to be a lot more challenging for you to provide in this season. And so, yeah, and she's fine. Just send her to school. She'll be okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we're hung up on this concept that we will make the wrong decision. Listen, if you're making decisions that you're informing yourself on, you may learn some stuff and change your mind later, but it's never right or wrong. We have this myth in our head from our upbringing that it's like marking a test. It either is the date or it isn't the date. Well, life's not like that. These decisions that involve multiple people and evolving contexts and things, like it's not black and white. None of it is. It's all in the gray that we live. So when we are able to release ourselves from like making ourselves wrong, like you said, or like needing to live up to some, I don't know, mythical preconception that we think we need to have, and then we learn some things and we're like, oh, well, that assumption doesn't make sense anymore. We rarely turn around and go, okay, assumption, out of here. I feel better. You have to make decisions. You have to like exercise the decision-making muscle to realize that that little doubt, it's just a mechanism of fear that keeps us stuck. And addressing that, whether that's in a sales conversation to close and win business, or whether that's in a negotiation of what to have for dinner, or in your leadership role, how to empower your team, like this type of communication is on its way to being the status quo, even though it hasn't been. Like you and I both know, being authentic and being real with people today is the currency. So pretending like something is or isn't the case, like corporate culture. I just had this conversation recently where corporate culture has you pretending like you're perfect, not owning mistakes because you don't want to look bad.
And or you don't want to get fired.
And it creates a mess. And it's more mess than it's worth than just to say, oh, there was a better way to do that. Let's try to move forward now. I mean, do you see a lot of that in your work?
Girl, we don't even have enough time, but yes. And I will say, it puts undue pressure on us as leaders, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, because we then feel like we have to have all the answers and we again have to get it all right. And I've seen that even in me. So in myself, I teach this stuff and then I have to go around and eat my own cooking. It's like, oh wait, but girl, hold on a second. And so even this year, as we've been growing and evolving and making some shifts and pivots in the business, and there were things that just simply needed to get done. You have a business, there are things that someone has to do. And what I was doing was every time something came up, I was putting all the things on my plate. I don't work alone. I pay people to work alongside me. And yet, if you were like, okay, Nadia, we need to do A, B, and C, I would put at least A and B on my plate. Like, oh crap, I got to do that. And so now my plate is like overflowing, and now I'm stressed. And now I'm just like, I don't know how any of this gets done. And now I'm overly emotional. Like all this is whole ripple effect. And then it was like, wait. Stop the madness. Most of this stuff does not belong on your plate. You can inform it, but you don't have to do it. And you don't have to be the one that has all of the answers. Put the vision out there. Have people run stuff by you. Weigh in. Sometimes now it's like, I don't even want to look at it. We just did some website stuff. And honestly, if you were to go to my website and ask me some questions right now, I probably couldn't answer half of them because I don't know. Like I weighed in on some certain things. I signed off on certain things. But at the end of the day, being down to the nuance of did we put a period right here? I had to trust the people that I hired to do the job, that they would get it done. And I did not have the emotional and mental bandwidth to be micromanaging like you. And so it felt so good though, because again, I wasn't carrying that burden that I didn't have to carry. And I think that that's what we see a lot of times is I have to have all the answers. I have to have it all together. I have to have it all figured out. And this is really bad in corporate because in many organizations, you are not given that latitude or freedom and flexibility to make a mistake, to not have it all together, to say, like, they don't create collaborative environments. And so as a leader, I have to show up to those tables if I want to keep my job and advance, because if not, if Bob shows up, and and it's just like, it's frowned upon that if I go in and like, okay, my team and I let them weigh in, then in a lot of organizations that's frowned upon. And if you can keep a job, you will not advance because it's very much, I'm the leader. I know what's right. Do as I say, that sort of thing. And that's just too heavy a burden to carry.
And it's antiquated. Like my experience of that is like you're seen then as weak. It's a power dynamic where if you can own it, whether or not you know what you're doing, then somehow that makes you stronger or more powerful. Does it though? Like we're now in a point in time in global history where we're taking a look at all these things and going, that assumption over there, like in our other example, is wrong. That assumption is creating a problem today that's going to create more problems tomorrow. So let's address the assumptions and let's be honest and real with each other. That way we can actually collaborate and find a real solution that fits.
Yes.
So like, God love you for being in the corporate space and talking to people about that leadership from within and the collaborative efforts, because it's a world that's changing. And again, I feel like, entrepreneurs are leading the charge, especially entrepreneurs, but anyway, that's plug. But I'm now helping people who are coming from that environment who want to be the captain of their own destiny when it comes to creating long-term passive income and building that long-term passive income business, that they have to unlearn this stuff.
Yeah.
They have to unlearn that you don't need to know everything before you get started, that this journey out here is a constant evolution, and that you learn as you go from the people you surround yourself with. Yes. And that's a good thing. Like we have to overcome some of that limiting thinking that, it makes us weak to need collaborators. BS. You know what? In the world that I work in, it's a team sport. You never do those alone. You always leverage people for their strengths and what they're good at, because we are not jacks of all trades out here. If you are, I'm looking at you with a bunch of question marks, wondering if you're actually more risky than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a time and a place to look at these foundations and our assumptions, and that can be in a sales conversation or in a parenting conversation. I just think the world of you, and I know this is not the last time you're going to be here, but we don't have as much time as we
As we
will have.
need.
Yeah, I mean, we shelved about 3 different universes of conversations today. So we will have you back. So let us know in the comments what resonated for you and what you want to know more of, because this conversation is not over. And where can people find you to learn more about what you're up to in the world, whether that's sales training, which you are now very good at, and or the leadership type of dynamic? Where can people go to learn more?
Yeah, so if you are in the corporate space, actually either one. So I work with corporate leaders, but then also with women business owners. You can learn more at thedoyenagency.com. For those women business owners, as we do have books and resources specifically for you. And you can learn more about those at selllikealady.com.
selllikealady.com and doyenagency.com.
Yeah, the
Spell
Doyen
Doyen.
Agency.
So
Doyen is
spell
Doyenne.
See that, ladies? This woman knows her stuff. And she schools me from time to time, and I love her. And I'm so glad that you were able to join us here for an amazing conversation. Let's keep bringing these emergent dynamics and contexts to the world at large. We broadcast the Rise and Shine here every Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So grab your coffee, come enjoy a conversation with us, and build your world. This age of disruption requires new thinking, and we're here to bring you some of those innovations from the front lines of creating value in this evolving world. So, Dr. Nadia Brown, thank you so much for being here. It has been my
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Right on. And everybody else, we'll see you next time, friends. Same bat time and same bat channel.